Hi YouTube, it's Dani here. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Dani and I make vlogs about all things that I'm passionate about, which include travel, aviation, manifestation, and spirituality. So if that is of interest to you, then make sure you press the subscribe button so you don't miss any future content from me. Today, I am going to be talking about a topic that is very passionate to me, and that is the topic of vision boards and the law of attraction and manifesting. And I've been doing vision boards for I think at least 10 years now, maybe more. And I just recently updated my vision board for 2024, and so many people reached out to me and were like, Dani, can you teach me how to make a vision board? And I was like, okay, if this is something that people want, like, of course I'll talk about it. It's so second nature to me. I thought everybody was doing vision boards, and I have another video on the channel on how I manifested my job with Emirates, and I talk about the vision board in that episode. I'll link it up here somewhere so you can check that out if you want. But I thought that I would create a podcast episode on the vision board, and I've decided to record it on camera as well so I can upload it to YouTube. And I talk about in this episode that I'm going to play for you about how I manifested my job with Emirates using my vision board. So if you are someone who really aspires to be cabin crew, particularly for Emirates or another airline, or if you want to manifest anything in your life, whatever it is that you truly desire, then I highly suggest that you listen to this episode that I'm about to play, and it's going to teach you about how vision boards work from a science perspective. So this is not some woo-woo magic that I'm making up. It's actually backed up by neuroscience. And that is why I highly, just with every cell of my body, believe in vision boards, because they can actually work. And I believe if so many more people were doing this, we would have what it is that we desire. Like, if we actually believe in the tools that were available to us, we could start manifesting the life of our dreams. And I really believe that's what I'm here to talk about and to inspire people to do more of. I love the law of attraction, and it's available to all of us. We're all attracting regardless if we're conscious of it or not. So you might as well make it conscious and attract what it is you truly desire, opposed to just attracting things that you don't want in your life, which you're doing anyway if you're not actually following these practices, and you're not creating vision boards, and you're not actually taking action on your life to create the best possible life for yourself. So without further ado, here is my podcast episode on vision boards, the science behind vision boards and why they work. I hope you enjoy. And if you really like these podcasts, then make sure you check out the other podcasts on Thank God It's a Podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all your podcast platforms. I don't know what other ones there are, but I know that my podcast, Thank Goddess, is available on all of those. And there's so many amazing episodes on there that you can check out. And that's probably why I'm not as frequent on YouTube anymore, because I'm busy doing my podcast. But maybe I can do more episodes like this where I record the episode so you guys can benefit from the content as well as my podcast listeners. So without further ado, here is my talk on vision boards. Hello and welcome to the Thank Goddess podcast. I am so excited for you to be joining me on today's episode. My name is Dani and I am the host of Thank Goddess. So welcome if you're new here, and if you are a regular listener, then welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is the law of attraction. And in particular, we're going to be speaking about vision boards. Now, I wasn't planning to do an episode on vision boards. However, I'm someone that has been using vision boards for at least a decade now, and I have found them highly effective. I've manifested many things with vision boards, which is why I continue to do them. And recently this week I was updating my vision board. Now, I don't have a particular date where I rejig and recreate my vision board. I do it intuitively. Sometimes it can be once a year, sometimes it's every 2 years. It really just depends on what I'm feeling called, what I'm calling in, and yeah, just I guess it depends on my growth, how I guess the more I grow in terms of my own personal development, the more my vision grows and changes. So I need to adapt my vision board accordingly. So this week I was updating my vision board and I decided to post a few stories on my Instagram, and so many people DM'd me and asked me to teach them how to do a vision board and asked me questions on how I do my vision board. And it wasn't until I had so many people reaching out to me that I thought, well, is this a topic that people actually want to learn about and know more about? Because I think when we do something that is really normal for us, like I've been doing vision boards for at least over a decade now, I think. For me, I just assume everybody else is doing vision boards, and what I'm finding is actually they don't, and people want to learn about it. So I was like, well, why don't I create a podcast episode on this topic, and hopefully what I'm going to talk about today can inspire you to create your own vision board. And I'm also going to speak later in the episode of how I'm putting together a vision board workshop. So I'm going to create an in-person vision board workshop, which I'm putting together for Sunday, the 4th of February, 2024. So next year, as I'm recording this. And that workshop, you will get to work with me one-on-one, and we will be creating a vision board together. The vision board itself and all of the supplies you need to create a vision board will be provided with the ticket, and I'm really excited about putting this offer together and to do this episode today. Anyway, I'll talk a bit more about that later in the episode towards the end, but today I really want to talk to you guys about the neuroscience behind vision boards and why they actually work, and why I'm such a big advocate of vision boards, because I think a lot of people think there's some woo-woo magic. I'm just going to put some images on a board and pray for them to happen. But there's actually a lot of science to back up why vision boards work, and that's what I want to talk about in today's episode. But before I get into the neuroscience of vision boards, I want to talk a little bit about probably my most famous and most exciting thing that I manifested from a vision board, or something that just felt so aligned and so easy for me to manifest because I had images of that on my vision board. And that is the fact that I manifested my jobs with Emirates. So some of you may know that I used to work for Emirates Airlines in Dubai as a flight attendant, and I manifested that job. It basically fell out of thin air for me to obtain, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I did. So it was in 2017, I decided I wanted to have a career change. I was working in corporate before that, in marketing, in a 9-to-5 job, and I just wanted to travel the world. So I had this idea that I'll become an international flight attendant, and I wanted to work for a Middle Eastern airline because I felt that that location in itself was so central, so I'd get to travel to so many destinations around the world. And then I also believed that the Middle Eastern airlines had really good packages for flight attendants, all accommodation expenses paid for, and they set you up so it's very easy to move there and to adjust your life to a new culture and a new country. So I really wanted to work for Emirates. However, when I went onto the Emirates website learning how to apply for the job, Emirates weren't hiring at the time. So they had a halt for a significant period of time. So they weren't hiring any new flight attendants, and there wasn't any indication of when they would hire more flight attendants. That didn't stop me, however, from wanting to obtain the job with Emirates. They were my number one airline. That was the airline I really desired to work for. So what did I do? On my vision board, I stuck lots of pictures of Emirates cabin crew and the plane, the A380 Emirates plane, on my vision board. I even put a picture of me. So for a lot of the airline applications, you need to submit photos of yourself, and it's best that you do so dressed as a flight attendant with your hair slicked back. You know, I did the red lipstick in a suit. So I had some photos, some professional images of myself looking like a flight attendant. I also put those photos on my vision board so I could visually see myself, what I would look like as a flight attendant working for Emirates. So that's a little hack that I'm not going to talk too much on, but if you really want your manifestations to come to life, one of my personal hacks is to make your photos, your images, as real as possible. So using Photoshop or using actual images of yourself and trying best to either merge them with images of what you want to attract, or photoshopping images, or even putting an image of yourself with the thing that you want side by side. That can really help to amplify the energy of your manifestation. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that today, but that's just a little hack for you guys. So I put pictures of Emirates cabin crew on my vision board, and then because Emirates weren't hiring, I was like, well, maybe I should look at other airlines. So I looked at Etihad and Qatar Airways, which both offered really good packages, very similar to Emirates. You live in the Middle East, you get to travel the world. So I thought, okay, I'll be open to other airlines. So I applied for Etihad, and again, they said to me, they came back to me, so I applied online, and they said you have to wait for an open day physically in Australia to go to apply for the job. And I also looked at Qatar, and what happened, funnily enough, was that I think it was about a month after I decided I wanted to work for the airlines in the Middle East, Qatar announced they were having an open day in Melbourne in Australia, which is where I'm from. And it was the only city they were hiring in all of Australia. So it was so convenient for me. It was on a Saturday. It was a whole day event in the city. So I knew, because I had that opportunity, that I was going to go to that event. And there was hundreds of people at this Qatar open day. I had no idea that there was going to be so many people there. I had never been to an open day before for an airline. It's like literally, it felt like one of those auditions that you see on Australian Idol or American Idol. You know, those TV shows where there's like heaps of people lined up and everyone was dressed as a flight attendant. Well, like 95% of the people there. So everyone's wearing like, you know, their hair slicked back in buns and red or pink lipstick and wearing business suits, and everyone was like polished. And it was really intimidating, and I just thought, I'll never get the job, you know, like I couldn't imagine me being picked amongst all these candidates. And the funny thing is, I got the job. I was one of the, I think there was maybe 15 of us that got selected at the end of the day. There was many rounds, and it was kind of like process of elimination. People would get eliminated each round, and I made it to the end. And it happened, I ended up moving to Doha in Qatar, and I worked as an international flight attendant. And I felt even that I manifested, right? Even though Qatar was not my number one choice of airline, I was still so grateful to get the opportunity, and I got to travel the world, and I was there for about 2 years, absolutely enjoying it. I loved working for Qatar. And then what happened is in 2019, Emirates started recruiting again, and I wasn't even aware that they were recruiting. It was actually my housemate at the time. So we would live in shared accommodations, the flight attendants, and I was sharing an apartment with this Polish girl. And one day I was at home and she was at home, and she was busy on her laptop, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm updating my resume because I want to apply for Emirates. They're hiring again, because Emirates hadn't hired in years. They put a halt on their recruiting. And so it wasn't until 2019 they started hiring again. So a lot of people from Qatar and other places wanted to apply now with Emirates since they were starting to hire. And I wasn't even, as I mentioned, I wasn't even planning to apply for Emirates. It was just that my housemate was doing so, and she was encouraging me to apply also. She's like, Dani, you need to apply, like let's go to Emirates. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just go on the website and see where their open days are, because basically the airlines will move around the world and hire in different cities. So would you believe that I checked their open days for the upcoming month, and I saw that Emirates were hiring in Warsaw in Poland. And I had a flight with Qatar Airways rostered, so I would get to travel all over the world with Qatar. I had a flight the next month to Warsaw, Poland, the day that Emirates was hiring in Warsaw. So I was like, what the hell? Like, that just felt so aligned. I didn't decide then and there that I was going to apply for Emirates. I just kept it in the back of my mind, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens, because in aviation it's very likely that, you know, rosters can change, flights can be delayed, flights can be cancelled. I wasn't 100% sure if I would be going to Warsaw. So I thought I would leave it up until the day that I'm going to decide if I'm going to go to the open day. So I packed my business attire when I went to Poland, and it just worked out. Everything worked out perfectly, and I was in Warsaw, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna go to the Emirates Open Day. I've got nothing to lose. I'm here. You know, Emirates was always the airline that I wanted to work for. It's on my vision board. It was still on my vision board, you know, even after I got the job with Qatar. And so I went to the open day. I had no idea how many people were going to be there. I didn't know if it was going to be one day or multiple days, because sometimes these open days go for 2 or 3 days. And I only had that one day in Warsaw. I could not prolong my time there because I literally had to fly back to Doha in the evening. And would you believe I got the job? It was so effortless. Like, of course I had to actually go to the open day, and I did the best job I could do, but I wasn't really attached to the outcome because I had the job with Qatar already. I was very happy already. I didn't feel like I needed the job with Emirates. It was just this opportunity arose, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and see what happens. And I got the job, and you know, I had a second round interview which ended up being online, so I could do it from Doha. And I was hired within 2 weeks. Like, it happened so fast, and it just felt so aligned, so easy. And that's how I knew it was what I manifested, because that's often how the law of attraction works. Things will come to you. It's not to say that you don't take action. So I had to take the step to actually attend the open day, to look at the open days that Emirates were having. So I was taking inspired action. However, at the same time, it was the universe was co-creating with me. It was giving me these opportunities. So it felt like the job was kind of offered to me on a silver platter, and I just had to kind of meet the universe halfway and take that opportunity, to grasp that opportunity, which maybe wouldn't have been conscious to me had I not been manifesting the job with Emirates. And I'm going to talk about that in today's episode. So I think that's a perfect way to segue into what I want to speak about today, which is the neuroscience of vision boards and how it works. What is actually happening in your brain to create these opportunities, like this job opportunity that I had with Emirates. So let's begin. So maybe you're really new to this conversation. What is a vision board? So a vision board basically is a collection of images, and it's of things that create a certain feeling in your body towards what it is that you desire. So say, for example, you want to go on a holiday to Paris. You might stick pictures of Paris on your vision board. If you have pictures of you in Paris, even better. If you want to Photoshop pictures of you in Paris, even better. You want to make those images as real as possible, because our brains can't tell the difference between something that we visualize and something that's happening in real time. So if you can create images or a board that sparks your imagination so that you can really feel that you are in Paris, being inspired by those images, you can visualize yourself walking the streets of Paris. That's how we start to manifest what it is that we desire. okay? And usually with a vision board, I personally like to do I kind of divide it into different areas. So I might have an area on my vision board on my health, what I want to manifest in terms of my health. I might have have an area on travel, on relationships, on career, money, whatever it is that I'm calling in, I'll create certain sections on that. But I think the key thing to remember with vision boards is that you want to focus on how the images make you feel. You really want to connect to your feeling body, okay? You want to evoke some sort of emotions. Like when I saw the pictures of the Emirates girls on the wall, that excited me. You know, I could envision myself being an Emirates flight attendant. Every time I would look at those images, I was like, wow, that's going to be me one day. I'm going to be traveling the world working as a flight attendant. And seeing that every day helped me to keep visualizing it and visualizing it and visualizing it, even though it wasn't my current reality yet. So that's why we have vision boards. So let's talk about why they work from a neuroscience point of view, okay? Because I love science and blending it with the spiritual. And I think when you understand the science behind the spiritual and how they work hand in hand, and they are not two different things, they are actually one and the same, I think it can help us to manifest even more, because we actually understand that this works. This is scientifically proven, and if we believe something, we are so much more likely to have it happen in real life. You know, if you don't believe in your vision board, it's not going to manifest. Like, sorry, but that's just how it works. Our beliefs dictate our reality. Okay. So I think it's fundamental to first understand that that we are always manifesting. Every single person, whether you are conscious of it or not, you are manifesting, and you're doing it with your subconscious mind, your unconscious. You're not manifesting with the conscious mind, which is why so many people struggle to manifest, because they say, well, you know, I really want a red Ferrari. Why don't I have a red Ferrari? Because you're trying to do it with your conscious mind, but your subconscious is telling a different story, okay? Our subconscious is where all our core beliefs lie. You know, this can have a lot to do with our childhood upbringing. It can have a lot to do with our ancestral lineage and the beliefs that our parents and our grandparents and our great-great-grandparents held. That's stored in our subconscious, okay? So we are usually manifesting from there, regardless if we are conscious of it or not. Now, the good thing about vision boards is it allows us to rewire the subconscious, which is what we want to do, because often if we don't have what it is in our lives that we desire, it's because there is a belief in our subconscious which is counteracting what it is that we want. So there is a belief in us that is blocking the thing that we want to manifest. So we need to rewire our unconscious beliefs. We have to change the beliefs that are keeping us small, that are keeping us stuck, that are limiting us in some way. And if we can change those, if we can create a new belief, if we can feel a different emotion towards our desires, then we can actually see it in the physical and the 3D. I hope you're following me so far. So this is why vision boards are so powerful, because we're dealing with visuals and images actually speak to our subconscious mind. They pass the conscious mind and speak to our subconscious mind, which is what we want to be dealing with when we're manifesting. Our subconscious is a lot more easier to rewire with images and visuals opposed to written words or writing out what it is that we want. Because sometimes when we're writing, we're using our conscious mind, right? And sometimes that does not translate to the subconscious, which is why visuals are so important, because we're using a different part of the brain. So this is how the science works of the vision board. The more you look at an image, so the more you're looking at the images of what it is that you want to attract in your life, you are telling your brain that this thing that you are looking at is important, okay? You are creating value. You're telling your brain that this thing that you're looking at is valuable. This is important. And so when we do that, we are rewiring our brain to look for further evidence of this thing, to look for opportunities of this thing, because what we place our attention on is where our energy flows, okay? I don't know if you've heard this saying before, neurons that fire together, wire together. So this very much has to do with the fact that what we place our attention on is where our brain starts putting a lot of its energy towards. And that's exactly what we want when we create a vision board. We want to start getting our brain, training our brain to look for the images that are on our vision board. We want to start becoming more familiar with these things, even if they're unfamiliar to us now. We want our brain to start looking for these things, even if this is subconsciously happening in the background, okay? We want these things on our vision board to become more familiar to us, to become important to our brains, to our subconscious. We want to tell our brains that these things on the vision board are of value. Pay attention to these things. And the real juice here is not just, creating these neural pathways of these things that you want, right, by looking at your images, but by feeling a certain way towards them. So as I mentioned, when I was looking at the pictures of the Emirates flight attendants, I was getting excited. I was feeling excited within me. I felt, wow, like imagine if this becomes my reality. Imagine if I get to live in this country and get to travel the world for a living, get paid to travel the world. Like, I could feel my body getting all excited and uplifted by just having that thought. And that's what would spark within me every time that I would look at that visual of the flight attendants. And so that's what we want to do. So when we're looking at the images on our vision board, we want to create a certain emotion with those images, and hopefully that emotion is uplifting, it's high vibe, it's positive, it's good, because then we're telling our brain that this thing is safe. It's not only safe, but it feels good, it feels uplifting, it feels positive, it feels happy, it feels exciting, it feels all of these joyous emotions. Like that energy is very, very magnetic, it's very polarizing. And that energy is how we become really magnetic to our desires. So you want to be associating good feelings with that thing that you're looking at on your vision board. So as I mentioned, when we start placing value on the images on our vision board, when we start telling our brain, this is important, look out for these things, we start to notice more of these things in our reality, okay? So for example, you might have heard of this before, but just say for example, you put a red forward drive on your vision board, you want to manifest a new car. If you keep looking at that vision of the red car, right, every day you're looking at this red forward drive, I assure you when you're on the road next time, you're going to start seeing all these red forward drives. You're going to see it in advertising. Someone at work is going to come up to you and start talking about forward drives. The universe will start speaking to you in many different ways, through advertising, through like physical objects, through conversation. Look out for these synchronicities, because if they're appearing in your reality, it means that your manifestation is becoming closer and closer and closer. That means it's working. So don't bypass them. So many people at this stage, their manifestation is so close, and then they just ignore all of these subtle ways that the universe is saying, it's here, it's coming. Okay, so you may have had that experience to some degree with whatever it is. I know that happens to me all the time, even with the most random things. Like even when I'm not manifesting something, I'll have a conversation with a friend, and then someone else the next day will bring up the same topic, and then I'm watching a YouTube video and then the ad is on the same topic, and you're just like, what the hell? Like, why are all these things coming towards me? It's because that is how our brain then starts looking for evidence of things that are in our subconscious mind. So that is how our brain and how we tune into the frequency of what it is that we desire. Okay, and this is also known, you might have heard of the RAS, the reticular activating system. So this is basically the gatekeeper between your unconscious and your conscious mind. So it's basically a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out any unnecessary information. So we can actually train our RAS to take in what is important to us, what is of value to us, what it is that we want to attract more of in our reality, which is why vision boards are so important. And not only are they important just to create like a one-off vision board, but you want to be looking at it actively. You want to be looking at it every day. You want to put it in a place that you can see it every single day to get that reticular activating system working, for your brain to start filtering out what is not important, and hopefully the images on your vision board start rewiring your brain to focus on what it is that is important to you, or what you want to be important to you in the future. When we train our brain to start looking for these images, there are two things that happen. One is that it raises your awareness of what you actually want in your life. I think that's really valuable with the law of attraction and manifesting, to actually be clear on what you want. So many people are trying to manifest, but they don't actually know what they want. So having a vision board and looking at it actively every day is telling your brain exactly what is important to you, what you want more of in your life. And we can then, if it is conscious to us what we want and what we want to attract more of, we can start becoming aware of any areas of our lives or our thoughts or our words or anything that is maybe self-sabotaging us from having that thing. And it could also raise awareness where we might have any lack or fear mentality around having that desire. So if, for example, you're looking at an image on your image board, on your vision board, and there's a part of you that feels like that can't happen, like maybe you want to attract $1 million, and if there's part of you in your body that feels resistance to that money, or maybe that's never going to happen, or money's really hard to come by, like $1 million is really hard to make, I'm going to have to work really hard to make that kind of money, and I don't want to work really hard. Well, then there's obviously some sort of resistance there. That's a limiting belief. So that's something that you need to start working on in order to clear that. And another thing that, wiring your brain to look for these images can do is it will bring opportunities towards you, like the Emirates Open Day for me, for example. Like, I didn't have to really go out of my way. I didn't have to fight hard to get the job. The opportunity kind of presented itself towards me, and I had to just take the first step to go to the open day, and the rest was kind of history. So that's how it can work. Like, your brain's going to look for opportunities to bring more of that thing that you want into your life, but it's up to you to take the action, to take the step towards that thing, and to meet the universe halfway. Because we're always co-creating with the universe, and we need to actually physically take steps forward towards our dreams in order to manifest what we want. We can't just sit in our rooms and look at our vision board all day and pray that it's just miraculously, Emirates is just going to call me and be like, hey Dani, you got the job. Like, I had to actually go to the open day. So it's amazing that our brains have the ability to do this, right? So we can actually tell our brains what it is that we want our brains to be focusing on, and tell it what's important. But if we are not conscious of how this works, it can actually also work in the opposite way. So we could actually be attracting things that we don't want if we're not conscious of what it is that we do want, and not working towards removing those limiting beliefs and doing our shadow work to remove anything that's blocking our desires from manifesting. Now, the way that the RAS works, the reticular activating system, is that it's going to look for things that are familiar to it. So that's why we look at our vision board, to start creating new neural pathways within our brain towards that thing that we want. So we'll start looking for it in the outside world. However, our brains are already doing that automatically, right? Since we're little children. And so if you're someone, for example, who really wants to manifest, the love of your life, a really amazing, healthy, loving relationship, but you keep attracting unhealthy relationships, there could be a core belief that is attracting more unhealthy relationships to you, opposed to the healthy ones that you want to manifest. Now, it does this because Maybe, for example, as a child, you grew up in a household where there was lots of fighting, your parents had a dysfunctional relationship, maybe your parents were divorced, maybe you had a bad experience in the past with an ex-boyfriend. And so that image of relationships being unsafe and there being a lot of fighting and yelling and whatever it is, maybe that has become normal, familiar to your brain. So what happens, the way that the brain works, it loves patterns, it loves the familiar. So it's going to look for more evidence of that. If there is some part of you that believes that relationships mean dysfunction, then your brain is going to constantly attract more and more dysfunctional relationships to you, because that's the wiring that your brain has as it stands. So that is why it's so important to become conscious of what we want, and then start addressing any limiting beliefs, any blockages that are not attracting what it is we desire. Because if there is a mismatch in what is in your reality and what you want, there is a blockage there. And this could be subconscious. This might not even be yours. This could be from your ancestors. This is why we have to keep doing the work on ourselves. We have to keep going into the unconscious, into the subconscious mind, and making it conscious. The more we do that, the more we're able to flip the beliefs that aren't working in our favor, that aren't serving us anymore. So I won't get into all of that. That's another conversation, but that's a lot of the manifesting work. It's really like unhooking yourself from beliefs that just aren't serving you. So I think that leads me to my last final point that I want to say about vision boards, and that is that, and I mentioned it before a little bit, that vision boards are so important because they allow us to create clarity of what we want. And if we don't know what we want, we can't manifest what we want, right? I think so many of us, we think we know what we want, but we're actually so out of alignment, we don't even know who we are. And we are constantly attracting vibration to vibration. So we're attracting, like attracts like. We are attracting who we are, not what we want. And if we don't know who we are, it's going to be very difficult to actually attract what we want, because we're not actually attracting what is going to serve us and our highest interest and our highest evolution. And I think especially with this Instagram culture, you know, like social media, it's very easy for us to compare ourselves to other people and what they have, and everybody's presenting the best of, you know, a filtered version of their reality. And it's very easy to think, okay, well, this person has a really nice bag, I want that bag, I want a partner like that, I want a house like that, I want a wedding like that. And you know what, all of us are individual snowflakes. So what's going to make one person happy might not necessarily make you happy. And if we are out of alignment with who we truly are and what makes us happy, it's going to be very, very difficult to manifest what it is that we want. Because again, we are attracting, like attracts like. We are attracting who we are a vibrational match to, and what we are a vibrational match to, not what we want, not what we desire, but what we currently are. So the further out of alignment we are with who we are and our truth, the very more difficult it's going to be to manifest what it is that we want, because we're out of alignment. See, with our minds, we're sending electric signals out into the universe of what we want, which is why vision boards are great, because we can send those electric signals out to the universe. This is what I desire, this is what I desire, this is what I desire. But our hearts are the magnetic part of us, and they are so much more powerful than our minds. So we can send the signals out, but if they're not in alignment with what is true and what is aligned with us at our core, at our heart, there's going to be a mismatch there. So we're not going to be able to receive what it is we desire, because there's that misalignment. So that's something to be really mindful, not just with vision boards, but any kind of manifestation. It really needs to be in alignment. So I think it's so important that before creating a vision board, take some time to really sit with yourself, do a meditation, or just sit quietly, or go for a walk in nature and really connect to your heart and ask yourself and be honest, like, what do I want? What would make me feel like the most happiest, most joyful person? Not what will make Sally the most happy and joyful person, not what will make Mark the most happy and joyful person, but what will make me the most happy and joyful person. You know, think about who you were as a child and what brought you joy, because often there's so many clues there to who we truly are and who we were as children. So that brings me to the end of our talk here today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I absolutely love talking about the law of attraction, and I'm planning to do a lot more episodes like this in future and talk about other topics on the law of attraction. So if you like this, then let me know. You can always reach out to me at Dani Manani or Thank Goddess the podcast. I love hearing from you. You can also leave a comment or rate this podcast, because that really helps me out and it allows other people to find this podcast. And before I go, I just want to mention, I mentioned it at the beginning, but I'm running a workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop on the 4th, Sunday the 4th of February, and in Melbourne. It's going to be an in-person vision board workshop where all materials will be provided with the ticket. So we're going to come together and we're going to do a bit of manifesting work, and we're going to create vision boards together, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of my hacks on how to create a vision board that actually works, and give you lots of manifesting tips on how you can amplify the energy of your vision board. So that's going to be a really fun day, and of course there'll be refreshments and food provided for you to nibble on as you enjoy working on your creation, your beautiful vision board. So I'm going to leave a link for that in the show notes. So if that calls to you, if that sings to your heart, then I would love to see you there. I've only got a few tickets available. It's going to be quite an intimate event. So yeah, I don't want you to miss out on that. I'm not sure if I will ever run another one like this. So we'll see how this one goes. And again, if you're feeling called to attend, I'd love to see you there. It's such a beautiful way to start the year, to start it with intention and to create something that really speaks to your heart and what it is that you're calling in for 2024. And Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoyed Christmas, for all of you listening that celebrate Christmas. And I'm wishing you all a fabulous new year, and I'm excited to see what 2024 has in store for all of us. I have a feeling it's going to be a big year, and I think it's going to bring a lot of good change to a lot of people. That's what I feel. So take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode. Mwah.